Chapter 1, the context, black gold rush, and systemic overload. In the 1980s, Alaska was no longer a remote, frozen wasteland. It had become the lifeblood of the United States. Following the oil crisis of the 1970s, the US craved energy independence. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline System, TAPS, was completed, transporting millions of barrels of crude oil from Prudhoe Bay in the north to the port of Valdez in the south. At this port, oil was pumped onto massive supertankers to be shipped to refineries in California and Washington. The Exxon Valdez was one of the crown jewels of this fleet, a ship nearly 300 meters long, carrying the hopes and the insatiable greed of a booming industrial era. Before the disaster struck, the Exxon Corporation was under immense pressure to optimize profits. To achieve this, they implemented a series of measures that would later be described as a suicidal chain of actions. Personnel reductions. The crew size on the Exxon Valdez was slashed from 20 down to 12. This forced the remaining sailors to work grueling shifts, leading to chronic sleep deprivation. Radar systems. The ship was equipped with state-of-the-art radar, but due to high maintenance costs, the system had been broken for an entire year without repair. When the disaster occurred, the ship was effectively blind to icebergs and reefs. Single-hull design. To save on construction costs, Exxon continued to use single-hull designs instead of double hull. Had a double hull been in place, it is estimated that 60% of the spilled oil would have remained contained. Chapter 2, 24 fatal hours, the chain of egocentric errors. On the night of the 23rd of March 1989, the Exxon Valdez departed port carrying over 53 million gallons of crude oil. Captain Joseph Hazelwood, who had a history of alcohol abuse, left the bridge at the most critical moment to return to his private quarters. On-screen text. 23. The first mistake, an empty bridge. He left the vessel in the hands of third mate Gregory Cousins, a man who was not licensed to pilot the ship in the narrow and treacherous waters of Prince William Sound. Prince William Sound was riddled with icebergs calving from the Columbia Glacier. Instead of sticking to the designated shipping lanes, Cousins requested permission from the Coast Guard to switch lanes to avoid the ice. However, in a fatal moment of confusion or exhaustion, the order to turn back into the lane was executed too late. The massive ship glided through the darkness, heading straight for Bligh Reef. On-screen text, 04, March 24, 1989, Bligh Reef. A bone-chilling sound echoed as the submerged rocks ripped through the steel hull of the Exxon Valdez. 8 of the 11 cargo tanks were punctured. Immediately, 11 million gallons of crude oil gushed out like a black tide of blood, engulfing the once pristine Alaskan waters. Chapter 3, the impotence of a giant, the failed response. Exxon and the port management company, Alyeska, had always claimed to have a perfect oil spill response plan. But when the disaster occurred, the reality was a painful joke. Response barges were not ready because they were undergoing repairs. Oil booms, containment equipment were broken or severely lacking. Dispersant chemicals were ineffective in the cold, calm waters of Alaska. During the first 3 days, the weather in Alaska was exceptionally calm. This was the only window to contain and skim the oil. However, bureaucracy and bickering between Exxon, the state of Alaska, and the federal government caused the time to slip away. By the 4th day, a massive storm arrived, pushing the oil spill hundreds of miles away, fouling 2,100 kilometers of pristine coastline. Chapter 4, ecological tragedy, the cry of nature. This is the most harrowing part of the documentary, where we analyze the biological destruction. On-screen text, a death sentence for the ecosystem. 250,000 seabirds died instantly as their feathers became coated in oil, causing them to lose their ability to regulate body temperature. 2,800 sea otters suffocated or died from lung congestion and poisoning. Billions of salmon and herring eggs were decimated, wiping out the livelihoods of Alaskan fishermen for decades. The cleanup itself was another disaster. Exxon used high-pressure hot water to blast oil off the rocks. This action inadvertently killed all remaining beneficial microorganisms and bacteria, stripping the ecosystem of its ability to recover naturally. Chapter 5, the legal battle, numbers and excuses. Following the disaster, Exxon faced not only public outrage, but a mountain of lawsuits from fishermen, Alaska natives, and the US government. On-screen text, record compensation, $5 billion. In 1994, an Anchorage jury ordered Exxon to pay $5 billion in punitive damages. It was the largest environmental fine in judicial history at the time. However, Exxon did not accept defeat easily. They employed the most elite legal teams in the world. Over the next 15 years, Exxon practiced a tactic legal experts call exhausting the opponent through delay. They appealed to every level of court, arguing that the $5 billion was excessive and unfair. While Exxon's lawyers argued in the Supreme Court, thousands of Alaskan fishermen went bankrupt. Many fell into depression or committed suicide because they could not wait for the compensation day. The bitter end. In 2008, the US Supreme Court slashed the punitive damages from $5 billion to just $507.5 million, the equivalent of only a few days of revenue for Exxon at the time. Chapter 6, the legacy of error, the Oil Pollution Act, OP 90. Despite the controversial legal outcome, the Exxon Valdez disaster became the catalyst for changing global maritime law forever. Before 1989, oil spill regulations in the US were lax. After Exxon Valdez, Congress quickly passed the Oil Pollution Act of 1990 OPA 90 with extremely strict provisions. Mandatory double hulls. By 2015, all tankers operating in US waters were required to have double hull designs. Unlimited financial responsibility. Oil companies were held liable for the full cost of cleanup and damages, closing the loopholes used to evade responsibility. Rapid response systems. Every oil port must have a 24/7 spill response team equipped with full containment and recovery gear. Chapter 7, the unhealed scar, Alaska, 30 years later. Beneath the sand on the beaches of Prince William Sound today, if you dig 20 centimeters deep, you can still find layers of oil as thick as asphalt. Exxon once claimed that nature would heal its own wounds. The reality is different. Due to the freezing water temperatures in Alaska, oil-degrading bacteria work extremely slowly. Persistent toxicity, PAH. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are still leaking into the food chain, preventing herring and salmon populations from ever returning to pre-1989 levels. The Exxon Valdez was not just an oil spill. It is a symbol of the conflict between economic greed and ecological sustainability. It reminds us that a single minute of negligence by one individual or one cost-cutting decision by a board of directors can leave a scar on the earth for centuries. Documentary conclusion. Visual. A shot of rescued sea otters looking into the lens, transitioning to a modern offshore oil rig. Narrative. The Exxon Valdez is no longer at sea, but the lessons it left behind remain raw and painful. We have learned to build double-hull ships, but have we learned to build a double-hull conscience for our corporations? In the race for energy, the true cost is not measured in gallons of oil, but in what we are willing to sacrifice to get it. I am Gemini, and this is the wake-up call from the past.